So good morning to Yin Yoga, everyone. Let's take a comfortable seat. Opening the practice with a short centering. As you sit and noticing where you placed your hands, wherever they are, can you turn the palms up? And if you bring your attention just for that little hand motion, you might notice that there's an energetic opening across the front of the chest, across the collarbones and shoulders, maybe in the front of the throat. The palms up open us to possibilities, to new insights, to awarenesses that are always present around us. I heard this great analogy this morning. The woman who led the meditation kind of walked us into it, but then as I was sitting in meditation, it came to me that there is really always awarenesses, consciousness, messages, possibilities around us each and every day. We just need to stay awake. We need to hone this idea of presence so that we actually notice them. It could come in the form of an awareness or an aha moment or a teaching or an experience. It's so many opportunities. And as we take the world in through our senses, we might notice things that we hear or that we see or that we feel. But we can also bring in the awareness internally. It's almost like we know it's a knowing. We don't know how we know it, but we know it. That's a deeper experience. All possible because we turned our hands up, opened energetically into the possibility. Let's bring the hands together, palms touch at the heart center. Let's do a little quick awareness exercise. I want you to take the palms apart, but keep all the fingertips touching. And let your elbows be by your side so your shoulders are relaxed. And I want you to press gently into all your fingertips. Now don't do it so hard that you're working, but just do it enough so you have awareness. And noticing, first of all, if you're pressing into each fingertip equally, or is one fingertip or two fingertips a little bit stronger than the others? Just notice your own patterns. And then if you don't notice anything else, I want you to press just a little bit harder and feel the connection of what you're doing travel up through the arm. You might have felt like a turning on action in the upper arms. And then slowly start to bring the palms together. See if you can touch the knuckles of the pad of the hand and the heel of the hand and leave the middle of the palm spacious, like there's no touching of the middle of the palm. Now notice your fingertips. Now notice your arms. If your thumb is close to your breastbone, touch your breastbone and allow the sliding upward of the breastbone and the fingertips on the breastbone to float the upper body just ever so slightly. As you do that, do you feel a sensation of release down the back of the neck and shoulders? Stay with that. Take a breath. See if you can fill up that area around the upper shoulders, upper chest, collarbones, throat. And then without moving your upper body, just release your hands and then so slowly open your eyes. So if you felt a little shift, it's subtle, it's really tiny, then the energy of the upper body got released slightly. Because we know that the energy that might be swirling around us for whatever reason is holding us in some kind of pattern. If we can release that and we can release the fascia, which we'll work on today, then we can release the tension. Does that make sense? It all kind of flows together. All right. So let's take a comfortable, no, we're not going to take a comfortable seat. We're going to go on the mat and do a little bit of work. So if you have your mat or your blocks with you, I'd like you to use them for this first little series. Where am I? Use a blanket under your knees if your knees tend to be tight. So before we set up into this first posture, I want you to sit down onto your feet if you can. If that's really hard for you, please use a block. We're going to work on the upper body just for a second because of what I heard in the beginning of class. So taking the arms out in front of you, palms forward and inward, draw the shoulders to your back body, bend your elbows. Can you bring your elbows to touch? And if you can do that, can you bring your palms to touch? I'm going to turn sideways so you can see. If you can do that, take your right elbow over your left elbow crease. Option to put your hands on your shoulders, or hands back to back, or hands clasped. This is the full action, but you can do it on your hands on your shoulders too. Now take a breath, and as you inhale, lift your elbows upward away from your body. And as you exhale, pull the belly button in and kind of round the back as if you're bringing your elbows into your body. Inhale, bring the elbows up away from your body, kind of like a little baby back bend. And exhale, rounding. Inhale, lengthening, lifting, opening. Eyes stay closed or looking right directly at your own arms or your own elbows. Now come back to center, elbows lined up with shoulders. Take a breath here, and as you exhale, turn as if you're trying to twist to the right. Inhale, come back to center, turn as if you're twisting to the left. Inhale to center, turn. And just go where your body allows. We're working on some of the connective tissue around the upper back, upper shoulders, chest. And this is a little different than when you're holding steady. Good. Come back to center, release your arms. Pause. Ideally, there'll be a lot of sensation around the upper body because you did that action. So let's do the other arm. So bring your forearms forward, shoulders on your back, bend your elbows. Bring your arms together. Not everybody can do this action. That's why I do slow. Left arm, elbow on top of right elbow crease. Either hands on your shoulders or hands together. Inhale, lifting up. Nice and slow. Exhaling, rolling in. And what I want you to notice is any sensation, just like when we're holding a yin posture, any sensation that you're noticing maybe elsewhere in the body. Like I can feel this right away in my right sacrum on this side. I didn't feel it on the other side. And then come elbow to about shoulder level, take a breath in the center, and then exhale, twist to your now left. Come to center on your inhale and twist to your right, keeping your elbows parallel or level with your shoulders. Trying to twist when you're exhaling. Come back to center on your inhaling. Exhaling. Inhaling. We'll do one more each side. Bringing some blood flow, energy flow, lymph flow to this upper body. Come back to center and release your arms. Okay, so that hopefully opened up some of this. Now let's go to the rest of it. So hands are going to be to the blocks. You're going to take your right foot forward. We're going to move into a lunge. And what I'd like you to do for this time is bring your foot closer in so that when you come into your lunge, you're getting some sensation in your front of your leg also. Now I went too far. I can't quite get all the way through it. So I want my pelvis to be able to come forward enough, but I'm not going to worry about my knee over my ankle. Let your knee go past your ankle. And then take your blocks wherever you want them. You want them on the highest side so that your body is upright. All right, so this is our first yin posture. So once you find your place of where you want to start, just become still. And we'll turn on my timer. Let your head be in a neutral position. So it's common for us to drop our eyes and our head down. Try to keep your head in more of a neutral position. Eyes are on the horizon. You can find something to look at, like I can look at this little heart crystal that I have on my table, or I could close my eyes. Remember, this is a holding now rather than a moving. So find your edge, but as we always do in yin, if that edge gets too big, too loud, too noisy, you need to back up a little. Noticing your shoulders and what's going on up there. You might be holding tension there. Settle them down your back body. Adjusting your blocks so that you can press your hands into the blocks and they feel like the floor. So if your hands are too far out in front of you, you're going to be working too much in your arms. Make sure your front heel is still settled down on the mat. In yin, we put tension against tissues over time. The 3 T's, I like to call them. And we become aware of our presence. As I said in the centering, we can miss everything. We can miss the moments because we're busy, because we're distracted. Can we settle and just become aware of what's present in the body, in our surroundings, especially in our mind? Take one more breath. Now we're going to settle backwards here for the second half of this, and you might adjust your front foot. So start to move your hips back. And what I'm looking for now is a straight front leg. So your hip and knee can be right over each other, which means you can slide your front foot forward. Or you can have the choice of settling back all the way down onto your back foot. And now the front leg is straight. So whichever one you decide to do, if you're here with me, I want you to use your blocks to help you stay neutral and maybe lean forward a little bit because you might need that if you're sitting. If you're upright, the blocks are higher. Again, I don't necessarily want you to collapse, but there's this sense of elongation from the spine and the back of your front leg. So now we're in the back of this leg. Again, trying to hold a neutral position in your head. You might even choose to be up on your fingers. Or if you've got a lot of freedom, you can bend over quite a bit. Toes are up off the mat. You don't necessarily have to do a lot with your foot. I don't want you to work your foot, but I do want you to hold. And noticing what you feel and where it's going. Remember, fascia tissue is everywhere. I heard this great description. It's going to be my new language, I think. We have bones that hold us upright, gives us structure. We have muscles to move us around. And the fascia holds everything together. I thought that was such a great analogy. And when you think about fascia or soft tissue, it's like a great big hug, holding everything together so it all works together. And what happens if we have trauma, injury, stress? This fascia, this connective tissue can get sticky, can get tight, can get lose its resilience. And then we have pain and dysfunction, and we wonder what the heck happened. Take a nice deep breath. And then as you exhale, I want you to slide this front foot back. And before we do the other leg, we're going to move into extended child's. And you can use your blocks here, or you can choose not to. Hands are way out in front of you. You're going to sit back towards your heels as much as you can so that your hands are extended. You can see my hands are up on my blocks. And the head can release here. So if that feels like it's too much, hands go on the mat. Try not to just collapse, though. That's not what I want you to do. I want you to think about extending your arms and moving your pelvis back. And the analogy I like to tell people is, if I were holding your pelvis and I was pulling it backward, and somebody else had a hold of your wrist and they were pulling you forward, how would that feel in your body? So there's some effort going on here. It's not just a relaxed thing. We're working through the side body, through the outer hips, through the spine, through the shoulders. And if you encourage your fingertips to be a little bit active, you're going to get it all the way through your fingertips. Because we know the meridians and the energetic channels go all the way to the tips of our fingers, all the way down into the tips of our toes. Allow the breath to feel steady, deep in the body. Take one more breath. And then I want you to slowly make your way up. Now, because we're on our knees, you might want to take a moment, maybe stretch the legs out one at a time, opening up the backs of the knees. You can do downward facing dog if you don't do it aggressively. Okay, if you just go up for a second or two and open up your back body, that's fine. We just don't want to do it like a very yang oriented focus. And then when you feel ready, your blocks come up to the high level and we go to the other side. So left foot forward. And remember that when you're testing where you're going to go, I want the knee on purpose to go past the ankle. We have gotten into such a problem with our knees because, in my world anyway, knees never go past the ankles. well, that's not good function. So let your knees go past. Now, if you have an injury, that's different. Keep your ankle on the floor, keep your heel on the floor. Remember, hands are kind of pushing down to lift your chest up. And we find that first edge. First edge. And we breathe. Pad your knee in the back if you need it. Noticing how this side feels different than the other side. Shoulders drift down the back body. Elbows are soft, but your arms are lengthening. Noticing what you're doing with your jaw, your tongue, your throat. We find that still point, that quietness, that presence. So we don't miss the moment. That moment of information, connection. I liken the practice of presence, especially in what we're doing right now, to, have you ever read a book and maybe you were a little tired or distracted and you read an entire page of the book, but you absolutely didn't know what you read? Have you ever had that experience? You missed the entire page because you were distracted. You were not present to what you were doing. And that's exactly what can happen in our life. It's exactly what can happen on the yoga mat. This is becoming more and more of a message for me lately. I'm not trying to overanalyze anything, but just really noticing. Noticing my reactions to things, noticing the world around me. Kind of a big deal when you can drop in and really pay attention. Take one more deep breath. And then I want you to slowly start to move your hips back, and we'll go into that leg straight position. So remember the two options. You can stop with your hip over your knee and just kind of swiggle your front foot forward so that you can have a straight leg. Or you can sit all the way back down on your foot. Whichever way you're doing it, you're trying to imagine your spine being more long. We're hinging from the hip so that we can address the back of the leg. Less than the spine itself. We're going to sit in a minute. So let the blocks again help you stay in that long position rather than collapsing. We're breathing. We're staying present to what's happening. And it's not to say when you're paying attention to presence and the moment, it's not to say that you don't have awareness to anything else that's going on. You might hear noises in the house, or you might realize that you've got things to do today. I'm not going anywhere today. We've got a winter advisory out, and last night we got looks like about 4 or 5 inches of snow, and it's still coming. So I'm grateful I don't have to go anywhere. The benefits of Zoom yoga. But we don't, the bottom line is you don't want to miss what you're doing on the mat because of those other things. I have a granddaughter, and she's such a good teacher for this because she never stays in the present moment. Christmas morning, when she's opening all her presents, she's talking about the next day and what she's going to do with her girlfriends. She couldn't stay there. It was just amusing to me. Take a deep breath. And then very carefully now, slowly slide that leg back. And then we'll go into a wide knee extended child's. Now, you can do child's again with the blocks or without, just like we did the first time. Just open your knees wider. Or you can come up to puppy pose. And if you want to do puppy pose, no blocks, hands go way out in front of you, and you drop your forehead to the floor. So this is an option for people that want a little bit more release in the upper back, through the collarbones and chest. Remember the tension against tissues, not too much, because then you can't be here. It starts to turn into pain. Not too little, because then there's nothing going on. So you gotta have some discernment. Puppy pose is not necessarily the easiest thing for people. It does talk to your shoulders, so you have to, again, be very clear. Letting your upper body feel like a hammock, like it's hanging towards the mat, but your palms are holding you here. There's distance between your fingers and your sitting bones. If you feel like you're hanging too much into your arms, but you want to still stay here, lift your belly slightly so that you're not hanging in your lower back, and that might help. And if it gets too loud, move back to that extended child's. Noticing your own habits around your neck and shoulders. When your arms go over your head, does your upper trapezius area and your neck just automatically get tight? If that's the case, that could be a habit, a body habit. And so just see if you can maybe widen your hands or think about your shoulders moving away from your ears. I can't tell you how many people I see in an actual physical classroom, and pretty much everybody does it. Very common. Okay. Slowly take a deep breath. Start to come up away from the floor. You're welcome again to do dog pose or open up the back of the knee, but we are going to come into a seated position now. So you might just come off your arms and legs all together. And take a moment to stretch the backs of your legs out, whatever it is you're doing, whether you're in dog pose or seated, doesn't matter. All right, so bending your knees and then letting the knees fall out to the side. We're going to move into butterfly pose. Remember supporting underneath your legs to help the health of your knees, especially if this position feels a little bit wonky. If you want a wider distance between your feet, put your block down between your feet so you've actually given yourself more space. I have a lot of movement here, so I can do that. Not everybody loves that position. And if you have a blanket or a bolster or even your blocks, put it down in front of you. Take a nice deep breath. As you inhale, get taller, and then as you exhale, fold over. Try not to overwork your arms again. We've done a lot of that. You can take your hands around your bolster rather than up over the top of it. You can let your elbows rest on something and put your head in your hands. You could even let your arms completely relax behind you if you have blocks or something for your head. So today, if you've got neck or shoulder stuff, it might feel really good for you to put your hands in your head. Wiggle your elbows forward just enough so that you've got some sensation in the back of your body. Finding that still point. Finding that quiet, finding the presence. There's a lot that goes on internally when we're still. And if I were to look at you, or you were to look at somebody else that wasn't moving, you would say, well, they're not really moving around much, or they're pretty quiet, or you might even think they were sleeping. But with this meditative kind of awareness, this consciousness around what's going on, you might tap into all kinds of sensations and messages and sounds. Remember that when we're taking in the outside world, we can only do that through our senses. Such an interesting conversation, right? How do we take in the outside world? How do we do that? The only way we can do it is through our senses, with our eyes and our ears and our touch and our taste, right? How do you take in the inside world? Not with the senses, because the senses bring the outside world in. It's with your own presence and your own internal awareness. We're in the beginning of a new year. And a lot of times the beginning of the new year creates this energy of possibility. This energy of what's going to happen this year. In the yoga world, we call it sankalpa. We create a sankalpa based on our deepest driving desires, how we want to show up in the world. It's not about goals and a to-do list, things to fix, things to change. That all comes from your mind. Drop into your presence, drop into your heart, and notice what's going to lead you forward from this moment on the mat to the rest of the day, from today to tomorrow, from tomorrow to next week. Are you going to miss your life because you're so distracted? Or can you be intentional? This is what Sankalpa is about. It's a much deeper practice, much longer class, but that's the gist of it. Take a nice deep breath. And then slowly starting to come up. Slowly, slowly. Good. Alrighty. The next action we're going to do is deer pose. In the fitness world, it's called 90-90. So we're going to take the legs and open them up. You can lean back if you like. And you're going to drop your knees. Let's start on the right. And you're going to just lean over onto your right hip. But what I'd like you to look at is your knee angle. Can you make your back leg, let me get my timer, your back leg 90 degrees from your hip and your ankle, and then your front foot leg 90 degrees, knee and ankle. So closer in, easier, wider apart, 90-90, harder. And then I want you to turn towards this right leg. You can put your hand on your ankle or on your foot. A lot of people like to do that. Some people put it on the top of their upper thigh, not on your knee, where you're encouraging this external rotation. And then you're just going to keep turning until you find an edge. Now, if you don't like your hand on your body, you can put your hands on the floor somewhere. I don't want you to come down. I want you to stay up. And you're going to rotate around until you find a landing place. And then you're going to breathe, pause. Opening up, you might notice there's a big opening from the inner thigh of the back leg coming up through the groin into the belly. This is deep tissue of the psoas, mostly, but abdominal structure, adductors. I'm having you stay up on purpose so that we can tap into that area rather than going down. Breathing deeply into the body. Try not to overwork. A little bit of twisting happening in the upper back. Eyes can be on the horizon again or closed. If you want, you can turn your head again towards the right, finding that edge of the twist from the base of your right hip all the way up through your crown of your head. Take a nice deep breath. And then as you exhale, you can start to slowly unwind yourself. And as you do, pick up your knees and just slide your legs out in front of you and come back to a neutral position for a moment. On purpose, I like to change up the shapes, if you will, to something that's just a little different so that your body doesn't get into this autopilot. You know, when I say child's pose, everybody knows how to do child's pose and they all have their own way. But what if you change it a little? So this is similar to this particular action. So we're going to bend the knees, let the legs go over to the left now, and then come off this back arm and adjust your legs. Now you don't have to make it exactly 90-90, but having more of a spacious opening will give you more information. So coming up nice and tall, hand can be on the floor, on your own upper thigh, kind of pushing that leg outward, or maybe on the floor on the other side of your leg. And we get long in the body as we twist. And you find your stopping point, you breathe. One of the things releasing fascia can help with, which is a big deal in our culture today, especially in our world dynamic, in our political dynamic, is to regulate the nervous system. The fascia does a lot of things. One of the things it's known for is its communication. So basically, the fascia system communicates to the rest of the body about what's going on, what's needed. That includes your organs, your brain, your heart, just everything. So one thing that I've read is that it helps to regulate your nervous system so that we're not always in this state of cortisol, this fight or flight state where we're always like waiting for the next shoe to drop, waiting for the next bad news, waiting for something to happen. This is a real issue in our today's culture. It's creating a lot of fear and anxiety. So we have to work with, you know, what can we do as an individual to help ourselves feel more regulated and stable so that we can also be mirrors and help other people. And that ripple effect just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We can't fall into that pitfall of anxiety and fear. That's only going to bring us down. Take a nice deep breath. And then as you exhale, again, start to unwind yourself. Bringing your legs back up to center, nice and slow. It's a big action. And then stretch your legs down. All righty. So the next action's a little bit different. Let me check my time. Yeah, okay. You might want to have a block or a bolster nearby. So let's lay on your right side. You can let your head rest on your arm. You could put a blanket underneath your head. And you've got your hips stacked on top of each other. I want you to slide your right leg straight down and bring your left leg up and put your foot or your knee on something. So one version would be the leg is bent and your leg is resting on the bolster like mine is. Another version could be a block, or you could stretch your leg all the way out. This would be the ideal, but don't go here if it feels too hard. And some people can put their foot on the floor. You know my story around this. If you have SI joint issues, don't put your foot on the floor. It's too much of a pull. Bring your leg up on something. So either bent leg or straight leg. Now, this bottom leg can stay straight, or you can try to bend it and hold the foot. Remember, you're down. I just put my head up so I could see you. So it's a big movement. Lots going on here. So try to find your way into a place where you can stay and breathe. I don't know if you've ever heard the name of what they call this pose. It's called cat pulling its tail. That's not the Sanskrit name, obviously. Cat pulling its tail. So remember, the top leg is either straight or bent. Your hips are pretty much stacked on top of each other. And your bottom leg is either straight or bent and you're holding it. Now, if you're there and you've got a bent leg and you're holding your bent leg, you can stay shoulder stacked on top of shoulder, or you can unwind yourself again into a little twist. Finding your edge. Finding your presence in this fairly strong shape. What I like about practicing at home is that hopefully you don't feel intimidated, I guess I'll use that word, by other people in the room. You know how you go to a yoga class and you might feel a little intimidated if you modified your position or even just stopped it altogether. And you might go past where your knowing, where your discernment wants to take you. When you're at home, you can make your own adjustments. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Take a nice deep breath. And then I want you to unwind yourself. Can you come all the way back on your back body? Come all the way down. Bend your knees if you want. Rock your pelvis a little bit if you like. Bring your knees to your chest. Some kind of release move so that you can not hold any pattern of tension. Alrighty, when you feel ready, you can roll over to your other side. We'll do the same thing. So remember, you can use something under your head or you can use your arm. Top leg is out in front of you, either bent or straight, but up on something. Bottom leg is either straight down, or you can bend that knee, I'm sorry, and grab that foot. Don't assume that everything is the same. We are very bilateral, different, asymmetrical people. And then once you've got yourself into your position, try to relax a little bit. And one of the things that I know is that if you overstretch or overdo, let's just say, I have to grab my foot, but grabbing your foot creates almost a torque in your body where there's compensation patterns. It's not opening and healthy and massaging the tissues. It's more like the body's trying to compensate for your deeper desire to go into a bigger shape. Compensation patterns is what gets us into trouble over the course of our lives. We had them ever since we probably took our first fall. The body will compensate based on, you know, your life experience, your belief systems, all kinds of things. And my body worker told me that we start to get into trouble as we age because the compensation can't go anymore. It's like it's run out of a place to be in the body. And so we start having pain in our knees or in our neck or whatever. So practices like yin or practices like the flossing class I'm teaching, any kind of fascial work, somatics works too, is helping these compensation patterns to release, which is over time a really, really healing modality. Take a nice deep breath. And then if you're holding your foot, let go of it slowly and find your way back onto the back body. Once you're here, bend your knees. Take a gentle rock of the pelvis. So you're taking your lower back toward the floor and your lower back away from the floor. Finding a nice gentle release. Now, if you have a blocker, bolster nearby or a blanket, I want you to use it next. I want you to bring your hips off the floor in a little bridge pose and slide something underneath your sacrum lower back. So if you happen to have a folded blanket, it's going to cover your lower back and your sacrum. If you happen to just have the block, it's going to be more to your sacrum. So your knees are soft here, they're bent. Find a place that you feel supported. Breathing. Now, a couple of things you can do. I want you in a back bend on purpose here. And you can decide a couple of things. One is you could grab a hold of your elbows or your wrists and you could take your arms over your head. That helps to release and open up the throat and the chest. You don't have to do that. The other thing you can try or play with is staking your legs down to open the front of the hips. Be curious. Try not to go into the story. Just try. Go, well, that feels pretty good. I'm going to stay here for a while, see what happens. We're not going to be here too long, but that doesn't mean you should suffer. If 2 legs down feels too hard, you could always bend a knee. One knee, let the other leg be down long, and then switch it. My body sometimes loves the straight leg down, sometimes not. Depends on what's happening in my body at this moment in time. You don't have to put your legs down at all. You can keep your knees bent. Take 3 more breaths here. Excuse me. And then once you're through that third breath, if your knees are straight, please bend your knees and put your feet flat on the floor. If you have a bolster or a blanket underneath you, you can keep it there and bring your knees to your chest. And it will give you a really interesting change. If your block is underneath you, please take that away because it's a little bit too much for your sacrum. But either way, bring your knees to your chest, either flat on the floor or up on your bolster. You can open the knees a little bit. And then go ahead and put your feet down, and if you still have something underneath you, take it away. And we're gonna move into Shavasana from here. So finding your sweet spot, nothing to do here but enjoy, fully enjoy. Always a really helpful thing to cover your body. Goes with this idea of regulating the nervous system. Support your body in any way it needs with maybe something under your legs or something under your neck. Once you're satisfied with how you're lying down, I want you to stop moving, take a breath, and let the exhale settle you into your shape, your last and final shape. Take a deeper breath. And allow that deeper breath to start to awaken you from the inside out. Begin to stretch and move. Ultimately bringing your knees into a bent-legged position and rolling to a side. When you feel ready, come up to sitting. Allow the hands to come together at the heart center. Touching your thumbnails to your skin of your breastbone, gently slide the skin upward ever so slightly. Feel the floating of the front body as your shoulders, neck release. From there, you can bow the head ever so slightly. In gratitude for our time together on the mat, this time of presence and awareness, our deep body wisdom and guiding light. May our light always shine brightly, and may we always see the light in each other. Namaste.